folks, Paul from Easy Acres Homestead here, and real excited to bring you this video today because today we're going to be making kimchi. Kimchi is a Korean food staple. It's what we grew up on, and what it is basically fermented vegetables. And in this case, we're going to be doing gakdugi, which is a kimchi radish, and we're going to be doing a regular Napa cabbage style kimchi, kind of the classic kimchi that you would expect to find in a restaurant. A lot of the things that we love about kimchi, it's shelf stable, it keeps basically forever, it's really good for your gut flora, and has a ton of probiotics in it. It's just really fantastic for homesteaders, especially if you're like us and you don't have access to regular refrigeration. It's an absolute necessity for us. So last night, Grace went ahead and prepped the cabbage for us.
So the first thing you do is you cut a few inches down. The reason you don't want to use the knife to cut it all the way down is because you'll get all these leaf shards, which, you know, doesn't hold together as well. So you just want to rip it. See? No shards, no leaf shards. So once you've halved it, you want to take your knife and cut again a little bit into it. But this time we're just going to kind of crack it open. We're not going to split it. This is just going to help us get all the salt down into these areas that are harder to get into. It's so satisfying.
So this amount of cabbage here, how many heads of Napa cabbage is that?
We have 5, but some of them are really big.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is like 6.
Okay. What do you think this will last us the way we eat kimchi?
This feels like a third of a box of kimchi, and I made a whole box of, this is like a third of a box of Napa cabbage, and I used a whole box when I made kimchi to come here, and that lasted us like from October to now.
Basically all of fall and winter, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now we can brine. Okay, so now we're gonna brine the Napa cabbage. We're gonna use natural coarse sea salt, chun in yum. About these pots, usually I would do it in one big pot, but we don't really have the right bowl or pot or the space. So we're gonna do them in these small bowls, but if you have the ability to get one bowl and put them all together so that the whole cabbage is laying in the bowl, that's really what you want. But the important thing about brining is this like stiff part of the cabbage, you wanna get that softened. So that's why we brine. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this salt, and in each leaf layer, we're gonna put the salt in the base. This salt is like so precious. I don't really like to travel for a long period of time without having at least a 5-pound bag of this chunmyeon. So after you salt it, you're gonna want to set it in a way where the salt is gonna fall towards the bottom of the cabbage, because this like more tender leaf, you don't need to brine it that much, but it's really this bottom that needs the attention. This already wants to go down in volume, and I just did it. It's already starting to like sweat.
How much salt are you using between the leaves?
So, like a pinch.
Like a pinch? Yeah.
And I'm really going in between every leaf layer.
Are you focusing on letting the salt get to the bottom of the cabbage rib, the firmest part?
Yes. We don't really need to brine the more tender upper leaves. So that's the important part to get the brine on. Because, you know, the leaves are going to sit in, you know, the sauce, the paste that we're going to put for fermentation. So the leaves are going to get there. So I'm just lovingly pressing these down. And with this, like, I've just got a little leftover salt. I'm just going to sprinkle that on this base part. So we're just gonna let these guys sit out overnight. They don't need to be refrigerated. You wouldn't want to keep it in a super hot room, but like I said, kimchi's pretty forgiving, so we're just gonna leave these overnight. I'm actually really excited to see how it's gonna come out because I've never done it in this setup before. So we brined our cabbage. It's been about 12 hours. I originally recommended 10 hours. We did 12 just because of the way we had to stack the cabbage. The cabbage that were on top didn't brine enough, so I rotated them and they've been sitting for another 2 hours and they're looking good now. What we're working on now is this paste that we're gonna use to flavor and coat our kimchi. So what I'm doing is I'm preparing a starchy base. Every family kind of has their own recipe. In my family, in my mom's side of the family, we boil potatoes and we use that starchy water to build the base of our paste. So you don't have to peel the potatoes, you can just scrub them really well.
And do you always have to use potatoes to make the starch base for the sauce?
No, a lot of people use rice starch. That's what's accessible to a lot of Koreans. If you have cornstarch, I'm sure that would work just as well. And then we're gonna like quarter these potatoes.
Nice roll and boil.
Yes. So you only need to boil the potatoes until half of them are fully cooked. And then we're actually going to take the potatoes out and use them for something else, like a nice mash, because we don't need the full potato to be like dissolved in the water. We just want it to release a lot of starch.
We're just after that starch that's in there.
Yeah. So some of the things that are going to go into this sauce, the crucial elements are gochugaru, which is Korean red chili powder. It's also really nice to have fermented shrimp paste, but we don't have that. We don't really have access to a Korean grocery that has those staples. Those fermented shrimp help the fermentation process, but it's not totally needed. So that's kind of like a bare bones kimchi sauce, is the starch and the chili powder. But most people will add slices of onions, radish matchsticks. These are daikon. These are a little different from what we would, the radish we use in Korea, but it's really similar. A lot of people will also have sliced chives or green onions. So these are the elements that go in as slices. If I had a blender, I would blend peppers. I prefer red fresh peppers. I also like to use red bell peppers. That's another like family variation that we have. But we don't have red peppers. We have green serrano peppers. Also, maybe 2 heads of garlic for this amount of cabbage. These ingredients I would much rather blend and really have that sauce, but we don't have a blender right now, so I'm just gonna really finely mince them and it'll still work out. So this has been boiling for a bit. I'm just gonna turn it down. You know, however long it takes to boil potatoes, that's how long it's gonna be going on. In the meantime, I'll do the rest of the vegetable prep. So everything that's gonna be sliced and added along with the Napa cabbage, we're gonna put it in one bowl. Everything that hopefully you're gonna blend, but we're gonna mince, which goes into the sauce, I'll put somewhere else. It's really nice cooking outside because I tend to cry a lot when I peel onions, and so far I haven't shed a single tear. I like to cut these on the diagonal so you have these pretty little shards. When I make soup, I tend to cut it more to make those thin little circles. Some people just like to put like a chunk that's like this big in of green onions and chives. So do whatever you want. It's all gonna work out. So now I'm just scrubbing our radishes. This reminds me of something. So the word kimchi, it really just refers to any pickle. The Napa cabbage is just like the classic iconic Korean kimchi, but some people make kimchi just out of this. That would be called mu kimchi, radish kimchi. So, or you can make oi kimchi, cucumber kimchi. There's kimchi that has that dense red chili sauce. There's kimchi that is more watery, that you would have more in the summer. So yeah, just a little fun fact. So these shredded radish is all gonna get mixed up together. Again, this is like our ingredients that we would not blend if we had a blender. All of this is gonna marinate together with that cabbage. Okay. I'm gonna stop here because something deep within has warned me that I'm very close to slipping and losing some finger skin. It takes years of experience to know when to stop grating.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm finally chopping up the serrano peppers. Look how thin I've gotten them, and now I'm gonna mince them as finely as possible. Again, if you have a blender, just throw all of the vegetables that you're gonna put in your sauce, just throw that all in the blender and you'll get a really nice like puree out of it. So this is gochugaru. This is Korean crushed red chili flakes. It comes in coarse or fine, and for kimchi you're gonna want to get the coarse gochugaru. This is a non-negotiable for Korean kimchi. If you have nothing else, you at least need this and like the starchy sauce. Right, so we've brined our cabbage overnight for about 12 hours. Look, last night this pot was full of cabbage, and like I said, the volume about halves after you brine them. Water that you see is the water that came out of the leaves. So you can see how like pliable this is now. This is how you want it to be for kimchi making. So we're gonna go ahead and rinse our brined Napa cabbage. And don't be too precious about it. We're just getting all the salt off because the salt has done its job. And if we leave the salt on, I know that this is like the most tempting step to skip, especially if you're low on water. But if you leave the salt, the kimchi will ferment at a very advanced rate, and you're going to have a lot of sour, mature kimchi in a short amount of time. So that's why this step is important. Please don't skip it. But for now, what we're going to do is give it one rinse, and then I'm going to go ahead and taste it. And if it tastes all right to me, then I'm just going to go ahead and move on. This is rainwater, and so the rainwater we collect here in the high desert is precious to us. So I'm going to follow all the steps while minimizing our water usage. So I've rinsed this cabbage. I'm just going to go ahead and taste it to see where the salt level's at. It's still a little salty, but it's a lot less salty than before our first rinse. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish rinsing these guys, and then I'm going to let them sit in clean rainwater for a little bit, and then we'll adjust again. And if it's still salty, then I just won't add any salt to the sauce. So we're going to check on the doneness of our potatoes and see if our starch water is ready. Yeah, these potatoes are done. I'm gonna extract them. We are not using them for our kimchi. We're gonna have some nice mashed potatoes later. So this is our potato starchy water. At this point, if I had a blender, I would take this water, take our garlic, our fresh hot red pepper. If I had red bell pepper, I would add it in there too for some freshness. But I'm just gonna actually put them in the boiling water to see if I can get things more incorporated. And this step, the sauce making step, this is where the flavor comes from. I really encourage you to go ahead and experiment. I haven't really given too many measurements. That's because I've done this so many times that I can wing it. If you want to follow a classic Korean kimchi recipe for some rough guidelines, go ahead. This video is kind of really showing you more the techniques and what it looks like, the equipment that you'll need to help you get a good visual of all that. But yeah, this is where you can be creative. This is where you're gonna start experimenting and create your own family recipe that you'll pass down. And the amount of sauce you're gonna make has to cover the cabbage. And it's not as much as you think, because similar to how we salted the cabbage, that's how we're gonna apply the sauce. We're gonna take like a little handful, maybe like 1 tablespoon, and shove it in between each leaf. And then we're gonna roll it up. So think about how much sauce you need to touch the base of the cabbage in between each leaf. That's how much you need. So all that radish, onion, and green onion that I sliced to go into our sauce, I'm gonna put it into a bowl that's gonna be big enough for me to combine the paste base with this veggie. And then I'm gonna add, for this amount, I'm gonna add like 2 cups of the chili powder. So let's say you make your first kimchi and it's way too spicy for you. Luckily, you can still water down kimchi after you make it. Actually, when in Korea, from the time you're a baby, you're eating this kimchi, but your mom would get a shallow dish, put some water in it, take the kimchi and rinse off a lot of the spices, and that's how you start eating kimchi. So don't be afraid to, you know, make your first batch of kimchi. You can adjust it in so many ways. Okay. You can see how thick this is getting. It's really becoming more of a paste now. I can taste the chili. There's a lot of heat in here. The serranos we added are gonna add that punch. You can taste the garlic. It needs some more like umami. So we're gonna add some fish sauce. Again, if we had fermented shrimp paste, that will add like saltiness and umami. But we don't, so we're gonna use fish sauce. Oyster sauce works. Go ahead and experiment. I like Vietnamese red boat or 3 crabs fish sauce. That's just my preference, but you do you. You're now going to take your starchy sauce base and you're going to pour it over that chopped green onion, and radish. I'm going to get a rubber spatula to get every last bit of that out. You know what Korean people used before we had rubber spatulas?
손가락.
Yep. You wipe like this. You are the spatula. scrape that. So this is the sauce in its final form. This is what we're going to be shoving into the Napa cabbage at the base of the cabbage in between each leaf. So we're going to have not just Napa cabbage in our kimchi, but we're going to have all these wonderful vegetables.
All right, so now that we have our cabbage prepared and our radishes here prepared, and Grace went ahead and built us this beautifully fragrant, delicious sauce, we're going to go ahead and pack the leaves. Can you explain the process for this?
Yeah, so the first thing we're going to do is get rid of any excess water we may have used to rinse the cabbage or excess water the cabbage may have released in this time.
So now that we've poured off the excess water, we're going to go ahead and start packing the cabbage, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, why don't you show us how we're going to do that?
So you're going to get some kind of workstation. You're going to take a piece of cabbage. And just like how when we brined the cabbage, we put the salt into the base, we're going to do that with the sauce. You don't need to cover the whole leaf. You just need to put it in the base. Like this much, maybe 1 tablespoon right in the base.
And you're going to pack it in between each leaf.
Yep.
And then fold it up.
So if you want to show some real technique, you're going to take your sauce in your hand, start from the top of the leaf, smear it down, and deposit it at the base.
Huh. So is it better to start from the inside of the cabbage or from the outside?
The outside of the
outside,
cabbage.
okay. And peel individually each leaf back and then smear it down and deposit it at the base. That's right.
I've coated this in the sauce. You can see the sauce is concentrated at the base. Then I'm going to go ahead and fold it. And you can see, like, you can still see the green. You don't have to, like, coat it crazy because everything's just going to sit and marinate together. And then we're going to go ahead and put that into the base of our kimchi tong. This is a specially designed container for fermenting kimchi. So you folded it in half, and you're going to tuck it. It's actually going to look organized in here. And when we go to get this kimchi later to eat, we're just going to take one of these out, and then we're going to cut it up.
You know, when I was a kid, my mom would go to the Korean Baptist church in the fall, and her and all the other ajumas get together and make kimchi all day, you know? Mm-hmm. And we're trying to get the air out of there, right? We want to push the air down and out. Look at how limp that kimchi got from that brine. That's amazing. We didn't boil it or cook it or anything like that. So the key to getting this to where it's not going to rot on you is to push out as much of the excess air as you can, and it will ferment. It's going to bubble and everything, and that's a good thing. That's what you want. It's going to turn a little sour. It's going to take on that kind of sauerkraut sort of flavor to it. It's going to have that fermented bite to it, so it can be delicious for you. So this is what, 6 heads of lettuce?
Yes.
6 heads of cabbage, rather. And we're thinking this is going to last us a couple months at least, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was really pleasantly surprised. If you watched our kimchi storage video from the fall where we dug a hole in the ground, we put a cooler in there, and that's where we stored our kimchi.
Just a field expedient cellar, you know, basically root cellar, yeah.
I was actually like wondering how much the kimchi would ferment over the winter in that storage situation. At my parents' home, we have a really fancy kimchi fridge that like optimizes the temperature for kimchi to not let it
get too mature. But cooler in the ground, like the kimchi didn't overly mature or over ferment for
Not
the
a bit.
whole winter.
Not a bit.
I was really pleasantly surprised.
It didn't even really freeze in there very hard either.
No, it didn't freeze. And if it had frozen, it would still taste good. Thawed. Yeah. This is the first time I've made kimchi without my mom.
Oh, is it really?
It means a lot to me that I'm not doing it alone. I've made small batches in college, but skipping a lot of steps and just doing enough to get by.
When I was stationed in Iraq, my mom sent me a jar of kimchi. And it was really funny too, because my squad leader at the time had been stationed in Korea, and he told me, he said, "Hey, Doc, you need to take that outside when you open it, and you need to give me some." Okay, that's the last head of cabbage going in.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a good amount of cabbage.
It makes me so happy to make it. I just feel really secure and confident about my future.
Okay, so the gakdugi.
All right, so gakdugi. It's really simple. We're just gonna take that remainder sauce and just kind of mix it all around so all of the gakdugi gets touched. We're gonna find like a nice glass jar to put this in, but for now, we're gonna put it in this metal bowl that has a lid.
So when is this ready to eat?
That's again your preference. Like I could take some fresh kimchi right now and go ahead and eat it. It will be more pleasant. I think this, given the temperature outside right now, I think 1 to 2 weeks. When I made this in the fall and it was warmer out, it only took and I had made smaller slices. It only took like 4 days before it was ready to eat. When this is ready, it's gonna be like a little bit soft, but still have that crunch. So yeah, the sauce goes a long way. Like you might not think, like we didn't think we were gonna have enough for all this, but I mean this is sufficient. Everything's covered. It's just gonna sit and get all nice and mellow for us.
The radishes are going to soften as they ferment, and they're going to they're going to take on a bit of a sour flavor. It's not disagreeable. It's really good. It's really, really good.
So a modern Korean kimchi container, it's designed so that you can push this down, and you're going to let all the air escape. We're going to push it down all the way. You see that air coming out. And then we're going to close up this little rubber gasket. So there is like very little air in there. And then we're going to put this sealed lid on top, which also has a rubber gasket. One thing I'd love to do is to invest in ongi, which is those big earthenware pots that you would bury in the ground. And I would love to do this process, but like truly old school with that, and see how it goes. All right, so there you go. We have kimchi 2 ways. We have it gakdugi and we have it Napa style, Napa cabbage style rather. Like I was saying, kimchi is a fantastic food source for those of you who are without refrigeration, or even if you do have refrigeration, it's fantastic food to keep on hand. Keeps forever, it's shelf stable, and it's really healthy for you. Anyway, I am Paul, and this is Grace from Acres Homestead. Thanks y'all for watching. Make sure that you subscribe, and until next time, y'all take care, be well, and be easy.